Chapter 11, Demon Swordsman Troy. The little boy took Luo Wei outside a house and vowed that Troy was inside. Luo Wei did not go in immediately. She lowered her head and said, "You go first. I will find you in 3 days." The little boy stood stubbornly. "I am already 7 years old." 7 years old? Luo Wei looked at his small body. He was so thin, she thought he was at most 5 years old. "Okay, I understand. Please leave quickly." The little boy raised his head, his big eyes full of seriousness. "I am a 7-year-old adult and can protect you." Puffed. Luo Wei couldn't help laughing and tapped his forehead with her finger. "You are an adult at how old you are, and you are still a child at the age of 7. I am the master." The little boy pouted, as if he had turned into a puffer fish with anger. "Let's go quickly." Luo Wei deliberately darkened her face. "If you don't leave, I will think that you want to give up and complete my test." The little boy became nervous when he heard this. He glanced at her twice, pursed his lips, turned around, and ran away with his head down. Luo Wei watched his back disappear at the end of the road, then stepped forward and knocked on the door of the house. 3 long and 3 short. This is the secret code the little boy told her to open the door. After knocking 6 times, the door opened. "You are?" The person who opened the door was a stooped little old man with messy white hair and only 1 ear. "I'm here to find Troy," Luo Wei said with a smile. The old man's expression suddenly changed. "Who are you looking for?" "Look for Troy," Luo Wei repeated. The old man glanced at her clothes with clouded eyes and opened the door. "Come in." There is another door inside the door with a sheepskin tent hanging on it. The old man opened the curtain and turned to her with 2 cloudy eyes. "Troy is inside." "Thanks." Luo Wei stepped through the door, and a wave of hot and humid air instantly hit her face. The smelly air was mixed with the smell of low-quality alcohol and the strong smell of sweat from men. The sound inside was loud and loud, with all kinds of people sitting around the low wooden tables. Some were drinking and punching, and some were shaking dice for fun. The loud and rough voices shouted, as if they were going to lift the roof off. The counter near the door was filled with wine jars. It turned out to be a tavern. Luo Wei stood at the door, like a little white rabbit that mistakenly entered the wolf's den. "Ah!" Someone saw her and burst into laughter. "Where did Miss Jiao come from? If she's not at home counting her dowry and waiting to get married, what are you doing here?" "I'm afraid she's not looking for her lover, Haraha." "Tell me, which one of our brothers has you fallen in love with? It's not impossible to serve him together." The people in the tavern were laughing loudly, talking dirty words, and staring at the girl who entered by mistake with their naked eyes, as if they wanted to take off her clothes with their eyes. If Luo Wei was really a 15-year-old girl, she might still be frightened by this scene. But she's not. Moreover, the fact that no one came to touch her after she had stood there for so long meant that these people did not dare to touch her. He probably saw that she was either rich or noble, and she only dared to live her life. Luo Wei ignored the group of people and walked to the counter with a calm expression. "Hello, excuse me, I'm here to see Troy. Can you tell me where he is?" The bearded man sitting behind the counter has a red rosacea nose and a waist as thick as a barrel. "Are you looking for Troy?" The bearded man stood up as if he were standing on a hill. He looked at Luo Wei condescendingly, with a hint of unknown meaning in his eyes. "Do you know who Troy is?" "A swordsman." Luo Wei smiled. "I'll hire him." The tavern suddenly became quiet. The drunkard stared at the girl in front of the counter in amazement. She was not afraid of them at all. She was as arrogant as a queen, and she said she was coming to see Troy. Troy. Does she know who Troy is, so she dares to come to him? The bearded man also stared at Luo Wei for a while, and finally a theatrical smile appeared on his face, and he pointed out, "Troy is in that corner, the one wearing the mask." Luo Wei nodded and thanked her, and walked towards the corner he pointed to. There was only one person sitting in the corner, wearing half an iron mask, revealing his sharp lips and stubbled chin. He was wearing a large black cloak, and the brim of the hat covered his forehead. When he raised his head to drink, he could see his curly hair as red as fire under the brim. A figure suddenly broke into Luo Wei's mind. It was a dark and windy night, and a man in a black cloak appeared under the city wall. He told the dying original owner that if he wanted to change everything, he would sacrifice to the evil god. With her soul, the memory disappeared, and Luo Wei quickly walked to the table of the mysterious swordsman. "Hello, Sir Swordsman. How many gold coins do I need to hire you?" Troy put down the wine bowl. "I don't accept employment from little girls." He picked up the sword, stood up, and walked towards the counter. Luo Wei grabbed his cloak, and when his green eyes looked over, she lightly opened her lips and uttered a sentence. "Offering me to the darkness." "Stop." Troy's eyes became extremely sharp for a moment, and he lowered his voice and yelled, "Do you know what you are doing?" Luo Wei asked with a smile, "Then will you accept my employment?" Troy was silent. "1 gold coin a day." Luo Wei stretched out a finger and shook it. "I don't need you to do anything dangerous. You just need to protect me." Troy looked at her as if he were looking at a fool. Luo Wei didn't mind at all that he regarded her as an easy target and introduced herself. "My name is Luo Wei, and I am a junior magic apprentice at Saria Magic Academy. Someone seems to be trying to assassinate me recently." There were many people in the tavern. Troy paid for the drink and left with Luo Wei through the back door and came to a deserted forest. "What are you doing here?" Luo Wei looked around warily. The tall and slender swordsman turned around and took off his hood, revealing his fiery red hair. "Aren't you very courageous?" A cold light flashed in Troy's green eyes, and he clenched the hilt of his sword. "Who asked you to come to me?" "You think too much. No one asked me to find you. I just heard that there is a very powerful swordsman in Syria named Troy. I happen to need a bodyguard, so I found you." As if Luo Wei didn't see him draw his sword, he tiptoed and picked off a few pieces of 5-pointed red maple from the tree, planning to go back and clip it into the pages of the book. Troy felt a little depressed when he saw that the girl was focused on the red leaves and didn't care about her actions at all. "Aren't you afraid of me?" He couldn't help asking. Luo Wei gave him 2 stingy glances, then turned her gaze to the leaves. "What are you afraid of?" Troy's voice was hoarse. "My hair is red as blood. I am the incarnation of the devil, and my body is covered with countless sins. Anyone who sees me will be unlucky and will be devoured by the pollution of my soul." Luo Wei took back her hand and turned to look at him. "Is that you?" "I killed a lot of people." "This has nothing to do with whether you are the incarnation of the devil." Luo Wei walked towards him, and her eyes fell on his bright red hair. "Your hair is very beautiful, like red maples in autumn and torches in winter. When I see it, I just feel warm." Hair color is just determined by the ratio of different pigments. This is related to the geographical environment and genetic factors where they live. Where does it represent the devil? If you really want to say it is a demon, so many people in modern times dye their hair red, wouldn't it mean that there are demons all over the streets and they can be caught easily? Luo Wei couldn't explain to him what pigments were, so she could only analyze them from a historical and cultural perspective. "I have read your history. Others say that red-haired people are barbaric and evil. That's because you are the real masters of this continent." Chapter 12, She Must Be a Perverted Witch. Most of the Aboriginal people in the ancient Western Plains had red hair. At that time, red hair was a sign of pure blood. Later, in order to escape the wasteland people invaded the Western Plains continent and broke out a protracted war with the indigenous people here. The Aboriginal people were fierce and killed many of them, so they were hated and stigmatized by them, and red hair became a symbol of evil. This is just a persecution of a minority by the majority in order to protect their own interests. If you even despise yourself, aren't you just fulfilling their wishes? Luowei looked at Troy's emerald pupils. An ray of sadness arose in her heart. Maybe one day, such brilliant colors will disappear from the world. Just like Westerners in the previous life, red hair has been labeled by them with various labels, such as devil, lewdness, brutality, impulsive, despicable, stupid. In the Middle Ages, a large number of red-haired women were burned to death as evil witches, and many red-haired girls were played by men as prostitutes. In modern times, people with red hair and green eyes are rare. White people not only discriminate against people of other skin colors, they also discriminate against people of their own skin color without mercy. Just like her father in the previous life, Luowei felt a physical disgust when she thought of him. It turned out to be like this. This was the first time Troy heard such a statement. His brain felt like he had been hit hard twice, and he suddenly became enlightened. He looked at the girl in front of him and suddenly felt that she looked like a wise man with profound thoughts. Know the stories flowing in the long river of history and use wisdom to guide fallen mortals out of their confusion. What's wrong? Seeing that he didn't say a word, Luowei thought he was depressed and hurriedly comforted him. Okay, don't be too sad. If it doesn't work, we can change the color. Do you want to know about hair dye? Troy. He grimaced and looked away. Don't think you can confuse me by saying this. I won't be fooled. You said no one sent you. Cunning noble, how did you know that I have a relationship with the evil god? Luowei blinked. I don't know. I just deceived you. Troy laughed angrily. Do you think I believe it? I advise you to believe it, Luowei said with a firm attitude. If you don't believe it, I may go to the temple to expose you. Troy's face suddenly darkened. I hate being threatened. I don't like threatening people either, but you seem to only accept this kind of cooperation. I thought you were a kind person, Troy said grimly, but I was wrong. No noble person is good. Luowei laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect you to be so simple even though you are such a big man. She wiped away the tears from her laughter and slowly straightened up, her gentle black eyes becoming cold-blooded and conceited. No good man lives long. Someone wants my life, and I can only try my best to survive. Tell me, will you help me or not? Troy hesitated for a moment, then held out his hand to her. What? Give me money first, and do the work later. Luowei twitched the corner of her mouth, took out a silver coin, and put it in his hand. Seeing the silver coins, Troy was shocked and his eyes widened suddenly. Didn't you say 1 gold coin a day? Not yet. I'll supply you later. Troy looked at her angrily. Luowei stretched out her hand. If you want love, give it back to me. It was the first time that Troy saw such a shameless person. He was afraid that she would really want the money back, so he quickly put away the silver coins. After receiving the money, he cursed, "Cunning noble!" Luowei glanced at him and was not surprised that he would accept it. The little boy said that Troy was extremely poor and loved to drink, so he would definitely be willing to be hired by her when he saw the money. Because except for her, no one would ask him to do anything, even if his swordsmanship could defeat a city of mercenaries. Dalaban bade Beatty. Troy escorted her back to the academy with a serious look on his face. He had not smiled since he came out of the woods. Arriving at the gate of the college, Luowei turned around and said, I don't need your protection on campus. You can usually stroll around on the street. There is a little beggar on the street. He looks about 5 or 6 years old. He has gray eyes and brown hair. He is thin and small. Protect him and don't let him be bullied. The more Troy heard this description, the more familiar he became. Are you talking about the little mouse? Luowei laughed. So his name is Little Mouse. But now he has changed his name to Roman. Troy gave her a strange look, lowered his head, and didn't know what he was thinking. "I'm leaving. See you tomorrow." Luowei gathered up her clothes and quickly walked into the academy. It was getting dark faster and faster in Zyria, and the air was getting colder. At night, the boys sleep in the building. Under the candlelight, Kyle asked angrily, "So, you couldn't kill her today?" Chad was ashamed. "Your Highness, she is so lucky." Every time he prepares to make a move, he fails for various reasons. Last night, a demon spider was released into her room, but she woke up as soon as the demon spider climbed into bed. He sneaked into the restaurant at noon today and wanted to poison her, but she ended up reading books in the library all afternoon and didn't even go to eat. In the afternoon, he managed to ambush himself in an alley. As soon as he drew his sword, he was spotted by a little beggar under a pile of debris. As a result, the little beggar escaped because of his left foot and right foot. And now she has hired a magic swordsman to protect her, so I can't find a chance to do anything. Looking back on what he had experienced this day, Chad felt exhausted. Magic swordsman. Did you read that correctly? Kyle stood up excitedly. Absolutely. It's just that the magic swordsman has dirty blood. Chad said respectfully. A look of disgust suddenly appeared on Kyle's face. Let me tell you, how could the glorious magic swordsman appear here? He didn't want to hear any more news about dirty people, so he asked Luowei, "Did you just say that she tore off the skin of white bread and fed it to the dogs, while she only ate the soft crumbs?" "Yes, Your Highness." She didn't even want to eat the breadcrumbs and threw both pieces of white bread to the beggar. Chad looked puzzled. Kyle's jaw dropped in shock. Did I guess wrong that she is not the witch that Sister Wang sent for, but a noble nobleman with noble blood? White bread is expensive and has always been a food for nobles. Common people generally only eat brown bread with bran added. But not only did she buy white bread, she even tore the skin off before eating it. She even tore the skin off without wanting to eat it and threw it directly to the beggar. As a prince of a principality, he would not dare to be so extravagant. Although he has the conditions to do so, his father will definitely break his legs if he does. Kyle was in a daze, suddenly unsure of Luowei's identity. Before, he thought she was just a commoner with witch blood, so he dared to let Chad assassinate her. But if she wasn't, Kyle didn't dare to imagine this possibility. After a while, he calmed down and ordered, "From tomorrow on, you will keep an eye on her, but don't do anything. Wait for my order. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Highness." Chad stood up after saluting. Seeing Kyle's troubled look, he hesitated whether to say what was in his heart. He felt that Luowei was not a young lady from a noble family, but a witch. Because nobles hate the descendants of sin slaves, they will never hire them to protect themselves. Another point is that last night, he saw with his own eyes that she put the magic spider into the cup and praised it for being cute. No noble lady would find a scary, poisonous spider cute. Only a witch would be so perverted. Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later, that's all we know. The perverted Luowei was hungry all night. When she got up in the morning, she wanted to eat all the sheepskin boots placed under the bed. Fortunately, she found half a pack of beef jerky hidden by the original owner in the closet, chewed 2 sticks, and filled her stomach with something. The beef jerky was just too hard, and it made her cheeks hurt from chewing it. Alchemy was taught in the morning, and it was obvious that many students in the class were not very interested in this subject. Lori Temple, the professor of alchemy, also knew that everyone didn't like this class, so he used the Pharaoh's snake to attract their attention from the very beginning. The miraculous chemical expansion reaction made the students exclaimed and listened with interest. But this attraction did not last long. When Professor Temple began to talk about the boring properties of metals, most people began to drift away. Only a small number of civilian students listened extremely attentively. Although alchemy is dirty and tiring, and the status of alchemists is much humbler than other professions, It is the most profitable science, and their desire for money is enough to support them to continue learning. Luo Wei also listened very carefully. In her last life, she studied polymer materials and engineering at university, and this class sounded very friendly. One class lasted 4 hours. At 12 o'clock at noon, Professor Temple announced that get out of class was over, and the students in the class rushed out. Luo Wei walked out of the classroom slowly, intending to go squat with a good Samaritan on the avenue. She wants well-wishers to take the initiative to invite her to dinner. There were many people going to the restaurant from the teaching building, but she was the only one like her. Luo Wei appeared on the boulevard at the right time, and sure enough, she met Winnie and Bulk, who came out together. Miss Luo Wei. Winnie ran over happily, followed by Bulk, who was walking faster. It's great to meet you here. Do you want to go to the restaurant for dinner? Luo Wei nodded. I'm about to go. Want to come together? Really? Winnie's cheeks turned red, and she immediately bent down and made an obscene salute. It's my pleasure. Luo Wei held up her arm. We are friends. No need to salute. Bulk also hurriedly came up, took off his hat, and saluted. Dear Miss Luo Wei, good day. Your beauty today is as dazzling as the sun. Luo Wei covered her mouth and laughed. Thank you for your compliment, Bulk. The three of them walked towards the restaurant together. Zilia's college restaurant has 2 floors. The first floor provides a variety of dinner meals, including bread, stew, salad, and grilled meat. The second floor provides snacks and drinks, which are more expensive. Aristocratic students like to have afternoon tea there. The restaurant was a little crowded, and Bulk stepped in front of the 2 ladies in a gentlemanly manner to help them clear the way. Miss Luo Wei, what do you want to eat? Winnie asked softly. I don't know yet. Luo Wei frowned when she saw the soup and meat paste spilled on the dining table. Remember us 101 reading website. Bulk looked back and saw the scene and had an idea. Miss Luo Wei, please sit down first. I'll buy whatever you want to eat. Okay, please buy me a tender steak. Luo Wei took out her money bag. No, Bulk waved his hand quickly. Please make sure I pay for it. This is what I should do. After he finished speaking, he squeezed into the crowd without giving Luo Wei a chance to hand over the money bag. Soon, Bulk bought the steak and bought himself a meat soup and grilled onions. Winnie also bought a piece of brown bread and a stewed beans. When the food was put on the table, Luo Wei held her breath. The roux soup looked like some kind of excrement. The grilled onions had a strong smell of burnt skin. The stewed beans had a layer of impurities floating on them, with the carcasses of bugs faintly visible, and the black bread looked like a stone with a suspicious mush that smelled rancid. And the most expensive tender steak in the restaurant also smells fishy. People at this time had not yet mastered the technique of bull castration, so even the tenderest steak tasted older, woody, and fishy than the oldest cow beef she had eaten in her previous life. Moreover, there are no knives and forks on the plate. Both nobles and commoners in the restaurant are eating meat with their hands. The only difference is that the nobles will take out a knife to chop the meat into fine pieces, while the commoners will not. As early as the first day she traveled here, Luo Wei guessed that she might have entered the game. The game, called Garland's Chronicles, appeared on her computer inexplicably. This game is based on the European medieval culture and has made many changes to the background, such as removing the existence of the Eastern continent. Because there was no Byzantine Empire spanning the 3 continents of Asia, Europe, and Africa, there were no crusades, and naturally no one brought back knives and forks. Also, because there is no ancient Oriental country, there is no paper and silk here, let alone white porcelain. There are very few tablewares, basically only ironware and clayware. But this world clearly has very advanced alchemy, and even glass has been made by them, but it is only used by the royal family. Luo Wei didn't know how many times she sighed. She took out 2 knives from her pocket, one for cutting meat and the other as a fork. When a mouthful of meat enters your mouth, you have to hold your nose to swallow it. The steak was sour, the salt grains were bitter, and the strong fishy smell made her want to vomit. At this moment, Winnie stuck out her tongue and licked the suspicious paste. Her eyes narrowed with joy. I'm so lucky today. I get a spoonful of cheese when I buy bread. Luo Wei quickly lowered her head, fearing that she would retching. Yes, Europeans used cheese to spread bread at this time because butter was invented by the Huns and had not yet been introduced. Because the sterilization technology is not developed, cheese smells rancid. This meal felt like a torture. Winnie and Bulk didn't eat well either. One of them was soaking the stewed beans in bread, and the other was crushing onions and mixing the meat paste. But when they saw Luo Wei's elegant and clean eating movements, they suddenly didn't dare to move. There is a feeling of shame. The noble and beautiful aristocratic lady is also beautiful when dining, which is different from them. Winnie lowered her head and nibbled on the hard bread, no longer mashing the bean stew. Bulk swallowed a sip of saliva and stopped licking the meat paste between his fingers. Instead, he picked up the stoneware bowl and drank slowly. Luo Wei finished the steak with difficulty and wiped the corners of her mouth with a handkerchief. Phew, finally free. Bulk, who quietly looked at her out of the corner of his eye, also breathed a sigh of relief, ate the rest of the food quickly, and stood up. Miss Luo Wei, let me return the dinner plate for you. I'll go too. Winnie's ears turned red. She was embarrassed to say that she actually wanted to go over and lick the bottom of the bowl secretly. There was still a lot of soup in her bowl that she had not eaten. Luo Wei shook her head and picked up the iron plate holding the steak. It's not good to keep asking you to help. I'll go with you. Winnie and Bulk looked at each other and saw the frustration in the other's eyes. Although Miss Luo Wei is gentle and kind, it is best not to dine with her in the future. When returning the dishes, Winnie noticed the indecent eating behavior of other noble classmates and quietly said to Bulk, I think Miss Luo Wei must be very noble. Bulk also saw it, and he nodded vigorously. I think so too. This young lady who is so particular about her meals may be a noble princess of a certain kingdom.